Hi, welcome back to the channel, and for anybody who's been watching, you'll know that I'm currently in the Lake District in the north of England, and I've got my hat on again. Now I've actually turned it around so you can see it says 8323 on the front of it, so maybe that's a further clue for anybody who hasn't worked out what this hat is just yet. It's got the mouse on the back, 8323 on the front, so some people have actually guessed it already, so congratulations if you're one of those. But the reason for today's video is I wanted to talk about an attack that Ukraine launched on a chemicals factory near Bryansk, and this chemicals factory is actually producing a lot of munitions. So it's producing gunpowder and explosives that are used in rockets and other forms of missiles in Russia. And the reason why this is significant is that Ukraine wasn't using drones. Well, it did use some drones in the attack, but it used a combination of drones and missiles. And it used missiles called Storm Shadow missiles, which are actually supplied to Ukraine by the UK and France. Now, the use of these missiles was actually authorised around 2 years ago by the UK and France. And they have been used on occasions by Ukraine. But this is the first time that they've struck a big facility. And this chemicals plant is located in the Bryansk area, which does border onto Ukraine. But those missiles have a range of around about 250 miles. So what we're seeing here is Ukraine really upping the ante. Up until now, they've been using drones quite effectively. Up until, I mean, they've hit some facilities up to 1,000 miles away from the border of Russia and Ukraine. So some of those drones have been going quite a long distance. But when you're talking about a missile versus a drone, you're talking about a serious amount of explosives. So a drone, a big drone that can fly that sort of distance, may have 50 pounds of explosives in the warhead. A missile is going to have more like 450 or 500. So it's 10 times the damage that we're talking about. And the other thing about these missiles is that they're cruise missiles. So they've got guidance systems on board, sophisticated guidance systems. So you can accurately fly them long distances and hit your target. And when they strike, they're going to cause a significant amount of damage. And that's exactly what's happened with this chemicals factory. Now, from Russia's point of view, the strike on this chemicals factory is going to be damaging. Firstly, it's going to lose the supply of those munitions. So that's going to cause problems in terms of keeping the war effort going. But there's also a lot of other issues. So there's an economic impact because the damage to that facility is going to have to be repaired. So that's going to cost potentially millions of dollars. There's a time delay in organising that repair. So that's going to cause a lot of effort and finance to have to be diverted to that facility. There's also the impact on the employment of the people who are working there. So they may be told that they can't come to work if it's not able to carry on with the facility if they can't carry on production, then that will have an economic damage. But also there's the environmental, because these chemical plants obviously are carrying a lot of chemicals. So there's potential toxic issues, some clear up needed. But then there's the morale concept that up until now, Russia has really been viewing this as a special military operation. So nobody in Russia is thinking that they're at war. They're just carrying on their daily lives. But when your town, if you live in Bryansk and your town gets struck by a cruise missile, I don't think you can brush that off as just being an accident. You can't just say that Ukraine didn't really mean it, because obviously if you're sending cruise missiles, then clearly you're in some sort of warfare. So I think from a morale point of view, from a PR perspective, it's very bad news for Russia. So I wanted to talk about this because we've been talking a lot about the drone strikes, and over the past couple of months, Ukraine has really ramped up its efforts. It's been targeting infrastructure, so oil and gas infrastructure up until now, but now clearly it's expanding the range. It's gone for this chemicals factory, which is linked to the war. But Russia is worried that they're going to be given Tomahawk missiles. Now, interestingly, when the 2-hour conversation was held between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, quite recently, there seemed to be a movement towards peace. Vladimir Putin was indicating that he was going to meet with Donald Trump and that some sort of ceasefire could be agreed. And at that time, Donald Trump was talking about supplying Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. Now, since that time, he's reeled back on that. So they haven't been supplied. Ukraine doesn't have them. They're not authorised to use them. And the issue with Tomahawks versus the cruise missiles that the UK and France are supplying is that they can travel much further distances. A Tomahawk missile could go over 1,000 miles, potentially up to 1,500 miles. And if Ukraine is given those missiles, then obviously it could start striking facilities deep in the heart of Russia and all over Russia. So this could cause real problems for Russia because they'd have to defend those facilities and it wouldn't know where the next strike was going to take place. But as soon as Donald Trump pulled back on supplying the Tomahawks to Ukraine, President Putin suddenly decided he wasn't as interested in peace talks. So the proposed meeting in Budapest has now been put on ice. It doesn't look like it's happening. And in fact, Russia ramped up some of their attacks on Ukraine. So I think the supply of those missiles is going to be key to any sort of peace settlement. As it sits at the moment, Ukraine isn't getting them, and so there's no peace deal on the table. I think if Donald Trump decides that Tomahawks could be a possibility, then we may see Russia deciding that it needs to do something because it won't want its facilities taken out by those Tomahawks. The cruise missiles coming from the UK and France are bad enough, but if it has Tomahawks, then that could cause some serious damage. So I wanted to give you an update because we've been talking about the damage that's been inflicted on the oil and gas facilities by the drone attacks, and they're multiple, and they're causing problems both economically and from a supply of fuel perspective. But now we've seen a strike on this chemicals factory, and we're also seeing Ukraine using missiles, not just drones. And those missiles will cause a lot more damage. It's going to take a lot more effort and cost from Russia's point of view to repair that damage. And if Ukraine is given more missiles, then we could see things really ramping up over the course of the next few months until potentially a peace settlement is proposed. So I think the supply of those Tomahawk missiles could actually be critical to peace being agreed in Ukraine. Now, the other problem we've got with peace at the moment is that President Putin has said that not only does he want to continue with the occupied lands that they've got, he wants to take on the whole of the Donetsk region. So he actually wants more land given to Russia as part of a peace deal. Now, Ukraine and Europe is not on board for that. So I think we've got a gap between the two sides. So until that is agreed, until we've got some sort of tangible proposal that both sides are happy to sign up to, I don't think we're going to see peace anytime soon, even if Ukraine is given the missiles and starts bombing lots of areas in Russia. Excuse me, there's a car coming on this little country road, so I'll just get out of the way of that, so let him past. You can see that I'm standing next to the woods. It's actually raining here, that's the reason I've got my hat on. I'm standing under these trees because it's giving me some cover, so hopefully it's not getting on the camera. So I think where we are at the moment is that Ukraine has really ramped things up. I wanted to talk to you about this attack on the chemicals factory because we're seeing almost on a daily basis now more and more Russian facilities being targeted and being struck. It's taking them out, it's causing problems, it's going to cause problems to the Russian economy at a time when Russia's already struggling financially to be able to keep this war going and also to cover the cost of all the damage that's being inflicted by the drones and now missiles from Ukraine. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video, you've enjoyed seeing me taking a walk. Sorry, I've just missed my step a bit there. Taking a walk in the countryside. I've actually seen two rainbows today, two different rainbows, and I don't think I've ever seen two rainbows before in my whole life, but it tells you it's been raining a bit, but there's also been some sunshine because you don't get a rainbow without sunshine. I'm just walking down to this corner here because hopefully you'll be able to see the mountain that is just behind me. It's quite a nice place here. Oh, by the way, whilst I'm talking about the Lake District, whilst I'm here, I've been taking in some local restaurants and doing some reviews for my other channel. Here's this mountain behind me here. You can see quite nice. I've been up that, so I've been to the top of that. I unfortunately didn't have my camera with me, so I didn't do any filming. But I've done some reviews of local restaurants, and one of them, I went to a place called the Drunken Duck, which is 300 years old. It's a converted farmhouse. Used to be run as a farm and an inn back in the day. And I had some duck there, not surprisingly, because it's in the name, it's on the menu. And something really interesting happened to me during that meal, something that's never happened to me before. So check that video out because I think it's quite fun, it's quite interesting anyway. I'm trying to apply the same sort of principles that I apply to these videos to my food reviews. So I give you a bit more information and background and history and just a bit of fun. Hopefully they're a bit more relaxed and a bit more entertaining and you might actually enjoy them. So please check them out. I'll put the link to the Drunken Duck video here. Oops, sorry, I'm missing my step again. I'll put the link to the Drunken Duck video below. So please jump over, have a look at that and maybe have a look at some of the others. Subscribe to the channel. But thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end. Thank you for your support and I will see you again on the next.